Lewis Hamilton's father once worked 4 jobs at a time just to keep his son on track. Meanwhile, other drivers had dads who could casually buy out an entire Formula One team. That's the insane contrast we're diving into today as we rank the richest and poorest F1 drivers side by side. Esteban Ocon. Unlike many F1 drivers who started well, Esteban Ocon didn't grow up in luxury villas or with a garage full of sports cars. He was born in Évreux, France, to a dad who worked as a mechanic and a mom who ran a small garage. Just normal working-class parents who suddenly found themselves raising a kid obsessed with speed. The only problem, however, was that motorsport is probably the most expensive sport you can even attempt. So how did they do it? Well, in a decision that still sounds crazy today, his parents sold everything they owned, including the garage and the house, and moved into a caravan. That caravan became home, and also their way of traveling from race to race, giving their son a shot at glory. While other kids had fleets of engines, mechanics, and shiny new chassis, Esteban was making do with a single second-hand frame, an engine they chose carefully, and tires pulled out of bins after other kids were done with them. And yet, he kept winning, because he didn't have any other option. By 2011, he was finishing second in the WSK Euro Series, right behind Max Verstappen. That caught Mercedes' attention, who stepped in and pulled him into their junior development program. Suddenly, the doors opened wide. Formula 3 champion in 2014, a Formula One debut just 2 years later, and a full-time Force India seat in 2017. Looking back, even Ocon admits he doesn't know how his parents found the strength to take that gamble. But for every family that sells their home just to keep a dream alive, there's the other side of the grid, the kids who never had to worry about money, because dad could just buy them a team, just like Nikita Mazepin. Nikita Mazepin. Now, if Ocon's journey was all grit and sacrifice, Nikita Mazepin's was the complete opposite. Born in Moscow, he didn't need to dream about money because his dad was Dmitry Mazepin, a Russian oligarch with a net worth of over $2 billion. That kind of fortune not only opens doors, but also buys the entire hallway. To be fair, Nikita was a decent driver at the start. He won the Russian Karting Championship in 2011, finished runner-up in the World Karting Championship in 2014, and showed flashes of talent. But the thing that made his rise so smooth was, you guessed it, funding. Thanks to his dad's deep pockets, he always had the latest tech, the best coaches, and teams eager to put him in a seat. But money can only take you so far. In Formula 3, he started to show cracks. And to make it worse, he developed a reputation for reckless driving and questionable behavior, including literally punching a rival after a race. Still, when Haas needed sponsorship, Dmitry Mazepin swooped in, secured Uralkali as the main backer, and Nikita suddenly had another F1 seat. The results? A complete disaster. Constant spins, mistakes, and outbursts earned him the infamous nickname Mazepin. His career ended just as chaotically when Haas cut ties in 2022, following Russia's invasion of Ukraine. No matter how much money his father had, nothing could buy him raw talent or respect on the track. And that's where the contrast gets interesting, because if Nikita was proof that money can't manufacture greatness, the very next driver shows what can happen when you have nothing but raw talent to start with. Michael Schumacher. Before he became the 7-time world champion and arguably the greatest driver in F1 history, Michael Schumacher was just a poor kid from Herth, Germany. His father worked as a bricklayer and managed a small karting track on the side, while his mother ran the canteen there. The family wasn't destitute, but they certainly weren't rolling in money, so every spare coin went straight into Michael's racing funds. What's truly astonishing about his career is that, in the beginning, it was all makeshift. His first kart was literally cobbled together out of spare parts his father found in the trash. Old wheels, used engines, whatever could keep the thing running. Michael even raced under the Luxembourg flag at first, simply because the German racing license was too expensive for his family to afford. But you know, talent like his can't be hidden for long. To help keep costs down, he worked as a mechanic at his dad's kart track, fixing cars for others while tuning his own. His time came when local businessman Jürgen Dilk eventually noticed his potential and became his first sponsor. And that small bit of backing made all the difference. From there, Schumacher's rise was unstoppable. He dominated junior karting, won the German Formula 3 championship in 1990, and made his F1 debut with Jordan the very next year. The rest, as they say, is history. Ferrari dominance, 7 world championships, and a name etched into legend. But while Schumacher clawed his way up with nothing but grit and a mechanic's know-how, our next driver's tale couldn't be more different. We're talking about Lando Norris, whose dad is worth $250 million, and instead of just opening doors for his son, he can make them swing wide. Lando Norris. Now, on the surface, Lando Norris doesn't fit the spoiled rich kid stereotype quite like Mazepin or Stroll. Fans adore him for his humor, his Twitch streams, and his undeniable talent behind the wheel. But let's be clear, Lando didn't exactly come up the hard way. His father, Adam Norris, is one of Britain's wealthiest businessmen, worth well over $200 million, thanks to ventures like Hargreaves Lansdowne and later Pure Electric. That kind of money meant Lando never had to worry about the financial roadblocks most drivers hit. When it came to equipment, travel, and moving up the ranks, the Norris family could foot the bill without needing sponsors or praying for scholarships. To his credit, Lando maximized the opportunity. He won the FIA Karting World Championship in 2014, and by 2017, he was already in Formula 3 and signed to McLaren's junior program. Unlike some wealthy drivers, Lando wasn't coasting. He delivered results that justified his rapid rise. By 2019, he was sitting in a full-time McLaren F1 seat. Still, money shaped the path. When you don't have to wait for sponsors or scrap for used engines like Ocon or Schumacher did, the climb becomes a lot smoother. Papa Norris even managed to tie his business ventures into the F1 world, with Pure Electric scooters linking up with McLaren for brand collaborations. Subtle? Maybe. Convenient? Absolutely. So yes, Lando's wealth gave him an advantage, but he's one of the few rich kids who proved he actually belonged on the grid. But while Lando's childhood was paved with resources, the legendary Lewis Hamilton's was fueled by sacrifice, as his father had to work 4 jobs at once just to keep his son's dream alive. Lewis Hamilton. Before he became the face of Formula 1 and a 7-time world champion, Lewis Hamilton was just a kid from Stevenage whose family scraped together everything to keep him on the track. His father, Anthony Hamilton, worked multiple jobs at once, including IT contracting and even cleaning offices just to afford Lewis's karting fees. Sleep often happened in the car while traveling to races, because hotels weren't in the budget. Like Ocon and Schumacher, Lewis started with very little. The difference was how much his father immersed himself in every aspect of the journey. Anthony wasn't just a financial backer, he became a mechanic, strategist, and motivator rolled into one. He stood trackside, studying where other drivers braked, then pushed Lewis to brake later, to extract those tiny margins that eventually made him unbeatable. That raw combination of sacrifice and talent caught the eye of Ron Dennis, the head of McLaren, who signed Lewis to their junior program at just 13 years old. With funding finally secured, the rise became inevitable. By 2007, he was debuting with McLaren in Formula 1. By 2008, he was world champion. The kid from Stevenage had beaten the odds in the most expensive sport in the world. What makes Lewis's story so striking is that without Anthony's sacrifices, none of it happens. He didn't have a billionaire dad buying him a team or a garage full of cars. He had grit, relentless family support, and an unshakable drive. If money gave someone like Lando a smoother runway, Lewis showed that with the right mix of sacrifice and skill, you can take off even when you start on gravel. But if Hamilton represents the pinnacle of hard-earned success, the final driver on our list represents the exact opposite, the ultimate example of money bulldozing every barrier in sight. Lance Stroll. And here he is, the poster boy for privilege in Formula 1, Lance Stroll. If Mazepin was the junior varsity version of "Daddy buys me a seat," Stroll is the full-blown final boss. His father, Lawrence Stroll, is a Canadian fashion mogul worth nearly $4 billion, with investments in brands like Tommy Hilfiger and Michael Kors. For Lance, that meant every possible advantage was available from day one. Want a racetrack to practice on? No problem. Lawrence owns the Circuit Mont-Tremblant in Quebec. Need cars? $180 million. Car collection includes one of the rarest Ferraris on Earth, a 250 GTO worth about $50 million alone. And when it came to racing, Lance wasn't just showing up with a kart, he had a team of ex-F1 professionals, including Pedro de la Rosa, coaching him while he flew to events in private jets. And when Lance began climbing the junior ranks, Lawrence took it up a notch. He reportedly invested tens of millions into Prema Racing, one of the top feeder teams in Formula 3, effectively buying his son a prime seat. Lance did deliver, winning the Italian F4 championship and later the F3 title, but the suspicion lingered. How much of this was raw talent, and how much was bought opportunity? By 2017, Lance was in F1, skipping the traditional F2 proving ground entirely. But Lawrence wasn't done. When Force India went bankrupt in 2018, he swooped in with a consortium, bought the team, rebranded it Racing Point, and later Aston Martin. And naturally, Lance got the seat. Critics point to his mediocre results and questionable attitude, whether it's snapping at engineers or sulking after poor qualifying sessions, as proof that his career is more checkbook than skill. And honestly, they're not wrong. If Ocon and Hamilton symbolize the rare triumph of grit over circumstance, Lance Stroll is the reminder that in F1, money doesn't just talk sometimes, it buys the whole team bus.